I've decided to try to start a new series, something that I'm going to call quite dramatically Rescue Bike. It's actually a continuation of something that I've been doing for a while, ever since I finished my walk from Stockholm to Sydney in 2016. I've been sort of buying older, slightly used, some of them very much more used bikes, and refurbishing them a little bit, fixing them, some of them just to get them back to a working shape, some of them to make modifications, to build fun bikes with something different, some different versions of something. For me, it's been a sort of meditation. I know I've called working on mechanical stuff meditation for me before, but I work with people and I work with computers, and just working on plain, simple mechanical stuff is always quite relaxing. I like it. I've been working as a mechanic for many years. So it's sort of, yeah, for me it is a form of meditation. It's a way to do something different. And I've always been of the mindset that you can use older stuff and you don't have to throw away old stuff. It should be used. I don't like stuff being bought and just put aside. I always want stuff to be used. So what I've been doing is I've been finding bikes that are in less than perfect shape, and then either making something different out of them or making them usable again and then moving them on to a new owner. It's not anything that I make any money out of. Basically, I'd say that if I'm lucky, I break even on most of the bikes. I try to, I don't want it to cost me money. So occasionally I make a little bit of money on one bike and I lose a little bit on another. On the whole sort of range of bikes, I think I end up basically getting my money back. But if I was to count the work I put into it, well, it's definitely a losing proposition. But again, it's a hobby, it's an interest. I like working on the bikes, and yeah, I feel that I'm sort of doing something worthwhile, getting bikes working and out there being used again. I also tend to buy stuff that I find interesting, and I like to make bikes that are slightly different. I've built a number of one-speeds and fixies. I think the most beautiful bike I've built is my Moulton SR2 that I turned into a belt drive fixie. Really nice bike. But I've done other things. I've rescued a Dahon folding bike. I've turned a Cannondale, what's it called again? Cannondale small wheel bike into a single speed. I've rescued an electric cargo bike that wasn't working, that I turned into a non-electric cargo bike and made it feasible to use again. So there have been a lot of different bikes, apart from the bikes that I've built for my own sake. Haven't really documented any of this. I have some pictures of some of the finished bikes from when I was going to sell them. But I've managed now to get hold of this space, which is close to where I live, or it's actually just in a building next door to where I live. And I will be able to do some more work now than I have been able to do before. So I've decided to start a proper bike rescue, and I will document the bikes a little bit better. The bikes I choose to work on are going to be very much dependent on what I'm interested in at the moment and what I want to do. At the moment, we're probably going to kick off with a lot of late 90s, mid 90s and very early 2000 mountain bikes, because that's what I'm interested in at the moment. They're a very competent and reasonably cheap alternative to a gravel bike or something like that. And rather than just build the bikes and move them on, I've decided to try using them for what I envisage them for as well. So this summer, I will be fixing up 2 or 3, 4 maybe even old mountain bikes, and I will be using them for bike packing and bike touring. So day trips, a couple of longer trips, like just a couple of days, 3 or 4 days, and just seeing what they're like. I find it's a pretty interesting proposition to use something like that doesn't cost a lot of money. Then you can spend the money on the travel instead, which is always a win-win situation, rather than like everybody does, and what I've been doing lately is buying an expensive bike and outfitting it, which is even more expensive, and then going out on a trip, which also costs money. Generally, I would say that fixing an old mountain bike, depending on what sort of mountain bike it is, I mean, some brands are getting quite expensive, but fixing an old mountain bike, making it usable and using it on a trip would actually cost less than the depreciation of buying a better quality bike and using that, which makes the whole thing very, very interesting. And if you fix up an old bike, there's no real depreciation. You might even increase its value. So in the future, you'll be able to see me fixing up some old bikes, hopefully using them, and talking about how they are to use and if they actually work the way I expected them to. So keep watching. There's going to be a fair bit of content of bikes being rescued and repurposed to be able to be used again.